I have read so many light novels over the last few weeks, I think I'm starting to go insane. Out of all of these light novels, the one that I didn't have any clue about was Too Many Losing Heroines. And this is one that a lot of people really hyped up because the anime was pretty good. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, this one, it was kind of okay. If I'm perfectly honest, I wasn't that impressed by it, but it wasn't bad either. This is about a guy who befriends losing heroines. And a losing heroine is a girl who is essentially dumped or not taken into consideration by a guy. They are heads over heels with this one other guy, and yes, through a manner of tropes, they are refused or pushed back, and this guy ends up befriending a bunch of them. And you know what? It's fine for what it is. It seems to be trying to push itself more as a gag series rather than a serious romance, and it's hard to take seriously, which if you want that, it's rather fine. If you want something that takes a really deep look at relationships and the absolute devastation of someone being rejected by the person they love, go read Chitase is in the Ramune bottle. It does it so much better. However, one thing I do want to see, because I did do a full-on review on this one, I did check out the anime, and the anime is superb. I don't know what it was, it pulled everything from the source material and just made it all the more better. This was kind of okay. The anime is something I would go down and sit and watch. Next up, we have a title that honestly I'm going to recommend you guys check out, because this one, if it's not on your list to read, it needs to be. Apparently Disillusioned Adventures Will Save the World Volume 4, and this one is fantastic. I know I've mentioned this one a few times, but again, if you have not checked it out, you need to. It's a straight up fantasy. It's about a bunch of adventurers who are, well, something happens to each one of them. They're either accused of something, falsely accused of something, or they have a falling out with a teammate, or they are just straight up bamboozled, and they can't trust anybody, including each other. And this is about a story of people getting into vices such as gambling, drinking, girls, and idols, and managing to become better people. It's a really good one, but not only that, it's got absolutely fantastic fight scenes, it's got character development, heaps and heaps of character development, and as far as I'm aware, it doesn't look like it's going to be too long. As far as I'm aware, it's actually ended in Japan, and we are mopping up the last few volumes in English. So this is one that I would really recommend you guys try and check out at some point, because it's worth the investment. Next up, we have Bofuri number 13, and this is a series that I just like. If I'm struggling or if I want something a little bit more relaxing, I will read Bofuri. This is about a girl who joins an online game, is scared of getting hurt, so puts all of her stats into defense and breaks the game. And just about every single volume of this is her going on a little cute adventure and getting an upgrade to an ability and becoming even more powerful. But she's just having a lot of fun with her friends, and that's kind of all you want. There's very low stakes in this. There's not like any major threat. It's just cute girls doing cute, overpowered things, and that's all you kind of want sometimes. A nice, fun, relaxing read after some of the heavier stuff that I've been checking out. Next up, I have been reading Volume 2 of Playing Deaf Games to Put Food on the Table. Now, it's been a while since I actually read this one. This was at the start of December I read this, and yeah, this one's a fun one. This is about deaf games, and you know me, I keep saying I don't really love deaf games, but I read this, and I watched Squid Game Season 2 as well. Oh, a lot of deaf games in the last few weeks, but if I'm honest, this one is a good one. This one is about a young girl who does deaf games as a profession, and we have a lot of sights into the world of deaf games, along with a rival. That's right. And we start seeing that these deaf games are putting people on the other sides, but we're also jumping around the timeline as well. So we're getting a few characters developed who are going to be built up and taking on our protagonist in opposing matches. They might have to team up another match, but honestly, it's one that I'm really impressed with. If you want deaf games in written form, this one needs to be on your list because it's going to be a good one. Next up, we have another familiar face to the channel, and one that I've not read for quite some time. In fact, it was like volume 13 that I read back in May, back when I was reading The Senses of Bookworm, which is another series that I'm going to pick up again very soon. Wandering Witch, volume 14. Now, this one took a while to arrive. I don't know what happened. It released in October, but I didn't get it until like the 31st of December. So yeah, this is a bunch of short stories about a young girl named Elena who travels from country to country. And well, Elena is a flawed protagonist. She's a bit selfish and she's a bit rude, and she'll often be roped into doing things for cash because of course she's got to pay for her travel expenses and what have you. Fair enough. So this one is an interesting one because volume 14, if I'm honest, I was a little bit disappointed with this one. I love the series, I'm still going to continue with it, but volume 14, I don't know, it was all themed around one specific country and all the stories came back to this country, but there wasn't really a story that kind of stood out to me. A lot of these volumes have at least one story that really stands out and makes me feel, oh, I love this series, but this one, not so much. Which is a bit of a shame. I'm starting to be somewhat a little bit concerned that our author here may have started to run a little bit out of steam. Of course, they've got to come up with so many stories for so many volumes, you're eventually going to start running out of steam. Volume 15 is a short story collection. We're going to give that one a little bit of the benefit of a doubt, but volume 16 onwards might be a little bit of a more of misses than hits. But overall, it is a series. I love this series so much. Overall, check it out. Just this one, a little bit not so great. Well, over the last few weeks we've had a really big event, and what was that big event? Well, it was Christmas, and I got volume 2 or file 2 of Nier Replicant. Now, I do want to do a full-on video of this one in the near future because it's Nier Replicant, and if you've played the game, you know exactly what we're going to get in this story. Now, I don't want to get too into this one because, let's face it, it kind of assumes you've played the game. It's the novel of the game. And if you read this and you've not played the game, you will get spoilt on the game. What I would personally recommend doing is playing through the game, and if you need a refresher on what things have happened, check out this. This is the second half of the story, the end part, so we get to see all of the big things that happened. And if you've played the Nier games, you know there's always plot twists at the end. This one spells things out a little bit more obvious than the game does, in my opinion, and it's quite nice that it does have a few alternative points of view for some of the scenarios, while also cutting out some of the things that made some of the scenarios, such as the Loyal Cerberus, the King of the Junk Heap, the Little Mermaid, those things that you guys know, and you guys know how well written they are in the game. This, it kind of skirts over things. You don't get the different points of view that you needed in the game to make those stories beloved. But if you're a fan of the series, I would recommend checking it out. If you're not, maybe give the game a play first. It's usually pretty cheap, to be honest, and well worth the time. But overall, a great series. Peak fiction. Peak fiction. Absolute top of the light novel world. Well, one or two of them are anyway. And Spice and Wolf definitely one of them. You know, Spice and Wolf is just that series that just keeps on giving. There's nothing quite like it. It's about economics. It's about a young man, a young salesman who is travelling the world and discovers this beautiful fox girl, this goddess who's just wanting to go back home, and they're trying to find her home, which may or may not exist. And of course there's romance between them, but there's economics. This is a series that just keeps on giving, and Volume 12 was no exception. We're getting close to Hollow's homeland at this point, but things are a little bit unsteady. There's still the kind of the whole, well, will she leave me? Will she kind of go and live her own life? I can't live with her forever. She's an ancient goddess. I'm just a man kind of thing. But we also have very, very, very clever religion and political and economical aspects that make this series fantastic. There's nothing else quite like Spice and Wolf, and it needs to be on your reading list. I can't praise this series enough. It is one of the best light novels out there. Only to be beaten by A Sentence Over a Bookworm, but even then, depending on what day it is, I might rank this one higher. Both are absolutely fantastic, but this one needs to be on your list if you haven't read it already. What if a lie became a person? And what if they had to destroy all of the other lies? Alongside a person who steals pencils to eat the fingerprints of their beloved. If that made sense to you, that's probably because you've already read the BS situation of Togetsu Umidori. This series is just weird, and it's good for it. This is about a young girl who has an obsession with one of her friends to the point that she steals pencils to eat the fingerprints. One day, she's approached by this young Gargura lookalike, BS-chan, and the BS stands for what you think it is. It turns out that BS-chan is a lie that has become a person, and she is going to destroy all of the other lies, and so they team up. This one is ridiculous. It's got a lot of over-the-top dialogue, a lot of the top ridiculous situations, and at first I wasn't sure about how much I liked it, but the more I thought about it, the more I did. This one is a really fun series, and it's completely unique. I mean, lies, fighting, lies in the real world. Yeah, not something that you would normally expect, but it's worth it. It's worth at least a try. This one is ridiculous. It's weird, but it's fun. And the design looks like Gargura. Same artist. Next up, we have our emotional roller coaster with In a World of Lies, I Fell Into an Unforgettable Love. Now, this is a novel, much like Nier Replicant. I did mention Nier Replicant is not a light novel, it's a novel. So is this. But, again, Japanese novels, just a stone's throw away from a light novel, really, aren't they? And this one, again, is very good. This is about a young man who discovers that he has about a year to live. It's incurable, he's not going to survive. And, well, he falls in love with a girl. A girl who is part of the cinematography club. And they make movies together. And it's all very sweet and nice until the thing that happens. It's one of those ones where if I talk more about it, I'm going to spoil it a little bit too much. But if I'm perfectly honest, go into it blind, check it out. It is 100% worth your time and is one of the best titles I read last year. This one deserves to be on your list to try out. And things are just going to get better from here because there's 3 more titles and I'm going to recommend all of them to you. Before we go any further, guys, please let me know in the comments what you have been checking out over the last 2 or 3 months and what you are looking at picking up next. But before you click off, we've got a few more titles, including a title that I expected so little of, but found fantastic. Before the tutorial starts, this is a Villainous title, but it's a villain. So, you know Villainous titles, they get isekai'd into another world and they've got to stop all of the death flags. They've got to stop themselves from dying. And this happens in this. Guy gets reborn as the very first boss, the absolutely weak boss who just gets killed off in every single route. And, well, he's going to stop that. He is going to stop himself from being killed and right all of the wrongs. But he discovers that his sister in this new world is the girl who is destined to die, to make the heroes all angry and, oh, we're going to avenge her. So what does he do? He course corrects her death flags along with other characters who are destined to die for the sake of the narrative. You know the ones, the plot death flagged characters. He's going to save them and he's going to make them join forces and potentially destroy the thing before it happens. It's interesting. This one was really good. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it, because to be honest, when I kind of read the back I was like, oh, it's another isekai, it's not going to be particularly great. But no, this one, it's got a unique premise. It's the main character is genuinely good while being a villain. It's not like the Overlord where he's going to take over things and be evil. He's genuinely a good person just put in the villain situation, much like the Villainesses. But yeah, this one, worth reading, absolutely recommend checking it out. Next up, we have Volume 6 of a series that I dipped into a few times over the last few years and had an anime last year. Sasaki and Peeps Volume 6. This is the UFO episode. So Sasaki and Peeps is an interesting one because it does introduce many things. First up, we have what is basically like Sasaki going to this other world and then striking up a trade deal with them and then getting money, and then he comes back to the normal world and then the psychics arrive and he ends up in psychic battles, and then his next door neighbour gets involved in the death games, and then the kaiju attacks, and then UFOs attack, and it's just nonsense. But it's one of those ones, it's pulling out just about everything and it's merging them together in a series that actually is really working. I actually finished this, and I think the next year I went out and bought like Volume 7. I was really impressed by it. It's one of those series, I don't think it's for everybody, but I do recommend you guys check it out if you do get a chance. If you want something a little bit more different to what you might normally be reading, this one, it is a really fun one. I think Volume 8 just came out as well, so yeah, I'm 2 volumes behind again. I need to start catching up. My life story in a nutshell. Always trying to catch up, never on top of things. And finally, we have a series that I've spoken about a few times, but I think it's one that I'm going to really start hyping up, because this one's going to be big when it eventually gets its anime. And I think an anime has been announced. Blade and Bastards. Now, this has been written by the person who wrote Goblin Slayer, with art by the one who did Overlord, Sobin. And yeah, this is basically about the guys who go into the dungeons and they collect the corpses. And what we're starting to see here is these corpses, they've got past memories and they've got unfulfilled desires. And what we're going to start to see is them teaming up and starting to make the world a better place. It's a really good one. It's very dark. If you want over the top action, very dark action, this one is one that you probably want to be checking out. If I'm going to start recommending dark fantasies or general fantasy titles, this one I think is going to be high on the list. It is a fantastic title, and we have one of the best girls in light novels. She is an absolute sweetheart. She is a giantess who is a mage, and people are like, oh yeah, you know, she's made fun of because of her stature. And she has a dream. She wants to defeat the red dragon that defeated her. And she might just do it. It's a really good read so far. I think Volume 3 is just about around the corner. I think same with Sasaki and Peeps, I think it's out the same day. But this one, if you want a fantasy title and you like light novels, this one needs to be on your list. It is easily one of the best ones I've read. A very good read, and very deserving to top this video off. Really hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know again what you've seen in the comments, what you've been reading, and let me know what you're going to pick up. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a lie down, because I've been recording all evening and I'm shattered. See you in the next video.